Today we're chatting to Elizabeth Olivier, the founder of Fluke Media. They're short-form social content specialists. They specialize in creating viral videos on social media, and their track record speaks for itself, having created videos that have reached hundreds of thousands of views. Elizabeth, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Good, and you? Excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome, man. Me too. And I'm very, very interested in chatting to you about short-form content, especially the video side of things, because it's something that I've been taking quite seriously over the last few months. And I used to just post on Instagram like random snippets from YouTube videos, and that never really got engagement. I never understood why. And it turns out that short-form content is a science, and a lot of people are probably still figuring that out.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is the hook. And people generally underestimate the hook. So we've been shouting about you need to do video since 2020. Now you see brands do video, but they do it wrong most of the time, which is tricky because if we say do video, it doesn't mean do motion graphics or let's take a design and make it move. It's pick up the camera and have a conversation, start a conversation. But then once you've done that, now the science starts because now we need to decide what are we talking about? Are we adding value? Because you need to give someone value for the time they're spending on your feed. And is it a form of advice? Is it entertainment? Is it something they would like or save maybe? But not only that, if you lose them in the beginning, then they're going to miss the whole video. And that's where the hook plays a very big role. So the first 3 seconds obviously is your hook. And again, you might think that the hook should be a little bit more of a salesy type of approach, but it isn't always the case. So for example, if you sell cars, let's say you sell cars. Now you're saying, here are the 3 things you need to know about this car. So it's a hook, but it's not a good hook, you know? So how about saying, these are 5 reasons why you will hate this car. Now I'm interested. Now I'm like, okay, you've got my attention. What are they going to say? These people have the guts to, be a bit sarcastic and have a bit of fun, but they're probably going to be selling the car while they talk to you about everything you're going to hate about this car. Does it make sense?
100%. It makes a lot of sense. I think while we're on this topic of the hook, it sounds like you're saying the science behind a hook is something that creates a sense of curiosity.
Yeah, for sure.
It evokes a specific sort of emotion, I'm assuming, curiosity being maybe one of them, or confusion or uncertainty, something controversial. That is obviously extremely important for people to want to watch the video, because if you don't capture their attention in the first 3 seconds, they're not going to see the rest of the video.
Exactly.
So I almost see it as an email. We do a lot of marketing emails. We send hundreds of thousands, if not millions a year. And we are so fixated on the subject line. Because if the subject line is not going to create a sense of curiosity, the people probably won't open it. If the subject line is something boring and tasteless, people are just going to delete it. So if you are sending a marketing email, the first thing we always say is, what's going to be the subject line? How are you going to get someone to want to open the email?
Exactly.
So short form video content, very similar. Like that first 3 seconds, you don't have a subject line, but the equivalent of that is that first 3 seconds that it gets someone to go, what the hell is this? This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen email subject lines where they deliberately pretend that they've sent you the wrong email. And I love that because then I open it and I'm very curious about that.
Anything that just gets people to stop and pay attention.
Exactly. And another way of maybe formulating a hook, but it does depend on the type of brand, the type of client and all of that. So for example, this kind of chat, perhaps the hook is not, these are the 5 things you should know about social media. Perhaps it's taking a behind the scenes moment. So I shouldn't have said that. Now you know all my secrets. Maybe I said something like that. Put that in the beginning as a hook instead of the obvious thing. Because the obvious thing is a hook, but it's probably not going to do as much as doing the offbeat approach.
Something that creates a pattern interrupt.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think a hook in itself can be maybe defined as something that creates a level of interruption that goes against the grain of what you're used to.
Yeah.
So for example, if someone ran in here and smacked me in the face, people are going to be like, what the hell happened? I want to see the rest of this video.
Unfortunately, that's true.
But now the reality is it might not mean that it's going to give me sales or leads for the businesses that I would want sales and leads for.
Exactly.
And this is where I think people understand a hook wrong. A hook is not just about attention. Yes, attention is super important, but you probably also have to find a way to formulate a hook that's still contextual to the actual message that you want to deliver as a business and a brand.
Yeah, that's actually where it gets tricky because you can't just entertain. You need to actually, like you say, possibly make sales out of this video. So similar to that, another problem I see is when we talk about trends and we say, okay, so this is the new trend on TikTok. This is going viral. And then everyone wants to do it, but it might not be relevant to your business. And I've seen various business jump onto trends and I'm just thinking, but did you really gain anything from this? Or is everyone just thinking, oh, cool, they have a fun office culture? You can use a trend right. And not all trends will work like this, but there are certain trends that work in terms of what is happening, what is the format, what is the framework or the recipe, and take that and apply it to what are our services or what is the product that we're going to be talking about, and apply it to the business within a trendy format instead of just going, we're going to do this dance at the office because it's trending. And that's similar to the hook. Is we can do the slap in the face hook, but is it really, does it suit the brand? Is it really going to make a difference? Will people get the message? Or are we literally just making them stop scrolling and then they're probably going to move on swiftly after that?
So, completely agree. And I think that's where things get tricky, as you said, and it's probably different for every single client and every single business owner out there. I think the point of this conversation today, and for those watching and listening, is like, I want to make it as simple as possible for them to understand what goes into creating a short form piece of content that can help them go viral or make sales at the end of the day for their business. Okay. That's the goal that we have today. So let me ask you this. First off, what does short form content actually mean? Because a lot of people might not have heard that term before. So short form, is that defined as something? Is that 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 3 minutes? What is considered short form today?
So traditionally speaking, 90 seconds. That is generally speaking how long a reel can be. I mean, it's up to 2 minutes now. I don't recommend that at all. I think if you want to watch long form content, something like this, where it's a full podcast, go to YouTube, you watch that. And that is generally how people behave now. If you're on Instagram, you're there to get the message quick and you need to understand it and you want to be entertained or just get to the point. Similar with TikTok. Having said that, 30 seconds is a good duration for a short form video. We generally see, if you want to get a message across, just straightforward message, no advice or this or that, 15 seconds, in my opinion, is actually where you should stop.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now the idea is to create a short form piece of content that can go viral, that a lot of people can see, and sales will roll in and business is going to be great. We all know that that's not necessarily how it works. But my question is, what determines that a video goes viral or not? Like, we've spoken about the hook. That's obviously the most important part of the video. But beyond that, like, what does Instagram look for? What is the science behind the video actually going viral from an algorithmic perspective, from a technical perspective?
Yeah, so watch time is very important. The longer they watch, the better that video is going to do, the quicker they engage. I know cents per reach is actually a very important metric for
Cents
Meta
per reach.
specifically.
Explain that.
So
Cents.
Cents as in I'm sharing it with a friend. So when you DM the video to someone,
Okay.
which is very
Like a share.
it's a share, but you sending it to a friend. Meaning there's something there to you that's worth sharing.
You're telling the
with
algorithm that this
someone.
is worth sharing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can relate to it to that extent that you're going to share it with a business partner, a fellow mom, or whatever. So the cents per reach is one of the most important metrics on Meta for the algorithm at the moment.
Interesting.
Maybe it changes tomorrow. So
Cents per reach.
it's how they explain it kind of puts back the social in social media in the sense that it's about community. It's more about friends than business.
More about
apparently.
sharing.
So that sharing aspect is really important, specifically on Reels.
Okay. So when you're creating a video that hopefully has a good chance of going viral, it has to be as short as possible. From what it sounds like, 15, 30 seconds. You need a good hook. And then you need to be in a position where people are actually watching till the end of the video and it's something worth sharing.
Exactly.
So my question now becomes is like, how do you get that right?
Yeah, that's tricky. So first of all, as soon as it gets a little bit personal, it will probably do better. In the context of a business and you're doing marketing for a business or social media for a business, we're not going to be talking, this is the product, this is what it costs, you need this product. We need that personal opinion. So something we tested recently with regards to following a little bit more of a personal approach is we had products. It's beautiful products. It's quite expensive. And we showcased these products. We made them look premium. So it's just a compilation of this beautiful product and you need it because it's going to make you look so good. And we moved away from that. The reach was very average. We moved away from that by saying, okay, let's take our sales team. We select 4 guys that are passionate about this product, that know the product, they know the audience, all of that. And we said, we're going to walk around around and just like almost put the camera in your face. Daar's seker 'n mooi woord vir dit, maar so it was a trending format at that point, was walking around in the office and asking people in the office certain questions. And you feel curious when you watch it. So that format kind of worked because you feel like who in the office is going to say the wrong thing, or what is the boss going to say, or what's happening? Something's going to come. I need to watch this. So that's the format that we apply to something completely different.
Okay.
By taking the sales team and saying, okay, I'm going to ask your personal opinion. What do you think about this? And I can't give you the exact question, but essentially that guy now is not only the expert, he's also sharing what he thinks and what he feels about it. So it's way more trustworthy. And not only that, people were engaging. People were arguing a little bit, oh yeah, the second guy knows. The third guy, not so much. I don't think he's in the right, So it started a bit of a debate. We got product inquiries. It went all over the show. And it was actually because we took that format, but we made it personal. And the personal opinion sharing part of it made it entertaining as well. Because now they're saying things that is completely unscripted. And the main focus of the whole thing was the product.
And obviously, so did you ask a question about the product?
Yeah.
So you said, what do you think of the product? Or something like that? Obviously, maybe you're not allowed to say, but...
What would you recommend in a certain context? And then they would select and give reasons. And what we also saw, I think it was about 2 months earlier, we saw a certain group of people that were very vocal when we were talking about certain aspects of the business. And they had a common interest. So we deliberately brought that into the hook.
Sure.
To say...
Because you knew that was going to grab attention.
Yeah, so we got their attention, but not only that, then the recipe of the rest of the video actually got them watching the
people
whole
were
thing.
Curious to watch
they were curious. And like I said, we actually got product inquiries, and that's the best case scenario.
Yeah. So how would we take that? Let's take that example. We have a fragrance business, okay? So let's say you want to go around and do the exact same format video for people that work in a fragrance business. Can you come up with a question that you think would be suitable, that people might want to watch when you walk around and saying, what is your favorite scent? Or like, is that good enough? How would you look at the hook and the question in itself to make sure that that actual framework that has a good chance of going viral, that can create curiosity and interest, would actually work? Because now I'm thinking there's people going, cool, I'm going to try this out. But then the way they ask that question is probably very important, because it has to be asked in a specific way that people would probably want to actually know what the answer is going to be. Because the last thing you want to do is ask a random question that nobody cares about.
Yeah, exactly.
So it has to be contextual to the business, but also interesting enough to want to pay attention to.
Yeah, and bring something in that's already kind of sparks interest amongst your audience. So for example, this is not going to be a good example, but it
top of mind example.
Structurally, it makes sense.
Sure.
So let's say, who's a celebrity that's famous now?
Just Mr. X.
Yeah, okay. So let's say Mr. X is really famous. People are talking about him in the news, or, he's a bit topical at the moment. And like I said, this is very structural, so it might not be the best example to execute, but your audience are interested in this guy. It's the right sort of target market. Now we go and say, okay, cool. Which fragrance do you think suits Mr. X? Now we walk around. So we brought in that topic of relevance towards your target audience. We brought that into the conversation.
I see what you did there. Very cool.
So now we say,
so you took something that was relevant, that the actual audience is going to want to be curious about, and you tied your product into that and said, which one of our products do you think he's going to want to use or smell the best at? Yeah.
And now we want it to be unscripted. So now we ask your team which fragrance, but then they must give a reason. So now the entertainment comes, because now it's like, because it smells musky, and I imagine you would be like that. Or, it gets all weird and wonderful with how they explain themselves. And that becomes the entertainment factor.
I dig that.
Which is often very difficult to execute, because entertainment almost happens by itself. You can't really script that.
So for those watching, listening, we've unpacked, obviously the hook is important, right? And we still actually have to come back to the hook, because I don't think we've spoke about that enough. But we started with just explaining what short form content is. So the video has to be short. People have to want to watch it till the end. In order to do that, we have to get them to be curious. We have to get them to want to almost like stick around until they've heard what everybody had to say, or the actual final answer. So something that I've been doing is, on my social media, is another framework which I felt is working, and I'm just enjoying it. It's like 5 things, like 5 things that I think people would be interested in, that they might want to know in South Africa, on the fringe of business. So we were sitting in the car the one day, Yuan and I, and he was like, Drew, I think this video will do well. And I was like, whatever, bro. I've posted over 1,000 videos. None of them has got over like 10 or 20,000 views. So I didn't expect much. And he was like, post it. And I was like, bro, I'm not going to post it now. We were on our way to a meeting. He's like, just post it. And eventually he posted it. And it got like 150,000 views or something. And then I was like, hold on. What did we do right? And we looked at everything we did and we're like, cool, how do we replicate this? And I think the framework that I'm using, is just the 5 things. And I like to talk about 5 things that is applicable to business owners in the country of South Africa, because I like business. I'm in South Africa and that's just not my thing. And it might not always be my thing. It will change or whatever it may be. Maybe there's other frameworks that I find just as enjoyable to create. And I'm also learning in the process because I'm researching all this different kind of facts, stuff that I'm curious about.
Yeah.
And it turns out that a lot of people are curious about it too, which is by fluke. No pun intended to your company name, but it was completely by chance that actually happened. So I'm assuming that there are different types of frameworks that people can leverage and almost like mimic and then contextualize it to their own business that will obviously work for them.
Yeah.
So we've got this walking around and asking people questions. We've got a list framework of 5 things, whatever, 3 things, 2 things, whatever you want to do. Is there any other frameworks that you've, stumbled upon or that you've tried and tested and actually ended up working quite well?
So something new that I've kind of dabbling into is a countdown clock. I don't know if you've tried that.
No.
So having a countdown clock of like 10 to 15 seconds, and similar to the 5 things, because I think the reason, apart from the fact that you really add value in the content, which is also important, the reason why that 5 things is so easy to watch is because you're counting it down. I know from the get-go you're not wasting my time. From the beginning, I know you're only going to keep me until I reach number 5, then I can move on with my life. A similar approach is the countdown clock. I'm not saying it's going to work, but I've seen some results on just posts out there, and I'm starting to try it out, is saying, let me explain this to you in under 10 seconds. But then you actually have the number go down. So I know you're not wasting my time, but I also feel like I need to see if you're able to explain this to me properly in 10 seconds. So again,
because you're actually curious to see if they're going to get it right.
You're curious, and you know it's going to be over quick, so it's fine.
It's not going to be too much of a time waste.
That's a new one I'm trying out.
Interesting. And how's it going?
Well, it's early stages, but the first few did well. Not like the initial office questions like I mentioned, but yeah.
People say that telling your story is also important, like maybe, creating, especially if you're a founder trying to increase your level of awareness around you and the business that you own, or the marketing manager, and you're trying to bring more attention to the brand, like telling a bit of a story, like maybe something that's happened, something that you've learned within creating the product, or maybe something that you've experienced about X or Y. What is your thoughts on that? It's not really something I've tried really. I've tried it once or twice, didn't really work. Obviously I maybe didn't do it that well, but like, what is your take on storytelling?
So I think that comes back to value. So if I look at your content as a founder, I'm looking for value. So I'm looking at, is he going to share some advice? Is there anything I can learn from this? Any inspiration? So I think value is really important, but that also applies to an actual brand. So whenever anyone watches your content, apart from the very, very straightforward, I don't know if you've seen those motivational posts where with the music, with very bad language. It was by entertaining.
No, which ones? which motivational videos?
So there's reels.
And then they swear and telling you how awesome you are.
Yeah,
you're like a motherfucker awesome.
Yeah, good morning, you sexy. Blah, 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 blah.
Today you're going to whip ass.
So that obviously works on a very superficial way. But apart from that, you need to add value. You need to actually give someone something.
You need to get them to feel something.
And that's similar to if you sell. If we sell a product, we tell you what you need to know about the product, or maybe what you need to know before buying the product, or did you even realize that you need this product if X, Y, and Z? All of that adds value to your life and gives you kind of a reason to trust us over the competition. Because with short form content at Fluke specifically, we don't aim to just sell products, because you do obviously have paid media experts like yourself that focus on the mechanics of driving those sales and driving those leads. For us, it's very much about building the brand.
Top of funnel stuff.
Top of funnel awareness. So essentially, that's where it comes to, what did we say that made you trust us? And what did we say that made you remember us? Those aspects to me is way more important in terms of what we offer than the sales, because then you guys come and you retarget the crap out of them. But at least we got some trust, and at least we got some attention.
Let me tell you, like, I used to think that organic content is dead. This was around 2018, 19, 2020, when people told me that they've got an agency helping them with organic content or posting on their socials. I was like, please stop that immediately and spend more money on ads. And back then, I think that was the best advice, probably, because ads were extremely powerful. But then TikTok came along and made it so easy for anybody to increase their, following, because you could have 5,000 followers, but you can reach 1 million people. And it kind of like changed how other platforms like Meta and YouTube look at organic content, because back in the day you had followers, and when you posted, majority of your followers, 80% of your followers saw the content, and then maybe 10 or 20% of new people would see it based on how many followers actually liked it. So the algorithm was tailored towards how many of your followers are enjoying this, and if they enjoy it, we'll start showing it to new people. Now it's almost the other way around. It's like, what is the watch time on the first 100 impressions or 200 impressions of the video, and if that is decent, then we will push it into more people's feeds, whether they followers or not.
Yeah.
Because the AI has got a good idea. Everything is run by AI now, so is the algorithms. So the AI has got a good idea of who's going to want to watch this content, because it just monitors what you're watching on a daily basis. And we spend 2-3 hours a day on our phone. So the AI has got so much information on what you're going to like, what you're not going to like. So it's really just about almost, and this is what frustrates me to an extent, is like we're dancing to an algorithm.
Yeah.
And that gets quite tricky to do. But I think your job and where the creativity lies and where the value lies is, how do you leverage the algorithm and still say what you want to say and get value out of it as a business?
Yeah, it's not easy.
Clearly. It took us, how many videos did we post? About 1,000 videos.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's trial and error. You have to taste entirely.
And for a long time, I used to think that I can just cut up some long form videos and post it on social media and that's going to go viral. But even though we got a few hundred views here and there, that's not really going to cut it though.
Yeah.
You have to create content that fits in the actual algorithm. And your job as a business owner, as a marketer, and as an agency like yourself, is to make sure that you're creative enough in order to get the message across while sticking to the framework of the algorithm.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some of the, out of interest, like I want to talk about hooks, because that's probably one of the most important things, right? We mentioned that the hook has to create curiosity, it has to get someone to feel something, it has to do like a bit of a pattern interrupt. But what I'm sometimes confused about is that, is it text, is it audio, is it visual, is it all three? What do you define as a hook? Do you have different types of hooks, and how can people leverage it when it comes to creating their own content?
I would suggest using all three when you look at a hook. Text is really important and underestimated. So we see on TikTok, if you have a heading on your video and you have your captions, so your subtitles, as they say, on the video itself, the SEO on that video is much better.
Interesting.
And again, as I mentioned, bringing in that trending topic like Mr. X, for example. If Mr. X's name is within your heading, we also see better performance in that video. Not only that, the editing plays a big role. I think you can have a great script and it will fall flat if the editing is not punchy.
And what is bad editing? What's good editing?
So a lot of conversations happen and you pause. You pause a lot. That's almost rule number one for me, is
cut out all the pauses.
Just cut out the pauses. It's easy. It's tedious, but it's easy. So I can say a sentence for 10 seconds, and if you just cut out my pauses, it's probably going to be 5 seconds. It takes out almost a bit of doubt that you feel when you're listening to it. And not only that, generally how things are edited now, where it's fine if it's like a little bit jumpy and the sentence is just being said quickly. It's much more effective than leaving pauses in, because it's natural. Cutting out the pauses, cutting out the ums. It's rule number one.
Rule number two?
Similar to what you are doing at the moment, with your list of 5 things. The way you edit it, where you quickly say what you're going to be talking about, but then you have the South African flag and the whistle and that makes it cool. That's part of editing that makes it cool. You could just be standing there and saying the exact same thing to the camera and not having the headings, which is going to make me feel bored because I don't know how far I'm away from number 5 visually, and not break my attention by adding the whistle and the flag. I mean, that's perfect. That's the editing that you need.
Interesting.
to do proper content.
And that flag and the whistle was complete chance. Don't pretend like you
don't pretend anything. That's what I actually want to say. It's like,
yeah. No, but
exactly.
I'm saying, like, you essentially.
Oh yeah.
We knew we had to do something that grabs people's attention, as opposed to just me standing there with a phone. And when I said South Africa, now it's just the flag and the whistle every time. So now people know. I was literally at the urinal. I didn't tell you. I was at the urinal yesterday. Someone stood next to me. He's like, "I've really been enjoying your videos." I was like, hopefully you're not looking at them while you're on the toilet.
But the other thing about that is you're not being too precious about the CI of this video. So you're not afraid to just slap the flag and the sound and the this and that. And I think that's something where brands can possibly go wrong.
Because
is
they're too rigid.
It needs to be perfect and
I
it needs
know.
to be on brand and we need a logo on it. Just drop everything. It's not worth it. You're wasting your money.
I'm going to put a pin in that because that's something I'm very passionate about. It's just brands that are too romantic about how things need to look, and then normally it just doesn't work, and then it's all your fault because obviously there was
tough.
something wrong with the messaging or the script when 99% of it was actually just too much of iterations back and forth trying to make it look like a brand ad.
Exactly.
So we've got cut out all the ums and ahs. Obviously, have things pop up on the screen. Motion, really. I mean, motion and sound. And, when we consume content, we don't just consume it with our ears, we consume it with our eyes. It's a matter of understanding that both is important, the visual and the audio of it. Is there anything else that you want to share on the editing side?
Okay, so music is important. Having the right music. First of all, if you select music in-app and it's a trending song, chances are good that you are going to do better.
Makes sense though, because
It does.
obviously if it's a nice song and people have been enjoying it in their feeds, the moment you play it, there's a probability that they're going to linger a little bit longer because they enjoy the song.
And it works with the algorithm as well. The fact that you're using a song that people are enjoying, now the algorithm knows, oh, I should probably push out this video. So that's a nice tactic. Not always possible. A lot of brands, depending on the setup of their account, technically speaking, if you're a business on Meta, you have a lot of restrictions around which songs you can use. But we see a lot of music that still gets results if the rest of the video is right, as long as it's not boring. Use a nice fast-paced song. Don't go for something that feels like a TVC, a whole corporate inspirational song instead of a lekker song that kind of fits the time we're in. Music plays a big role.
And coming back to the brand that's overly romantic about how it looks and they want their logo everywhere, how do you handle those conversations? And also, what is the main reason that doesn't work?
Yeah, that is a frustrating part of what we do. However, we're lucky enough that most of our clients actually understand the magic happens when we let go of certain aspects. So, first of all, we need to think about your profile picture. It's most likely your logo. I would hope it's your logo. Your name of your profile is probably your company name. Again, I hope it's your company name. So, your brand is already there. Do we really need to put the logo on as well? And my answer is no, because similar to if you save a video from TikTok, it's got the TikTok watermark. And if you post that on Instagram, Instagram has actually admitted that it's going to affect your reach if it's got that watermark.
Oh, wow.
And I am pretty sure it's similar to having a logo.
Any other logos?
Yeah.
I can agree 100% with you on that because I have been running ads on Meta since 2011. And since 2014, 15, every time there's a logo in a piece of artwork or content, it's almost like the algorithm just doesn't push it out as far as it probably could. But on the back of that, it's also because the users are indicating that it's not something that they're interested in anymore, because the moment they see the logo, they know it's a brand trying to speak to them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's off-putting. If there's a logo on, it feels like you're advertising to me and now I don't want to listen anymore.
Exactly.
So it's unnecessary. You're breaking your own recipe by adding your logo.
And the classic traditional guerrilla marketing is put our logo everywhere. Yeah. That's the old mentality. And to some extent, maybe that still works, but not on social media.
But then we revert back to your logo is your profile picture, which is already on the screen, and the name of the business is on there. If your video is good enough, they're going to look at that. That you don't have to force it.
They're going to want to learn more,
Yeah, and don't do an intro. So when we say hook, we don't mean
intro.
A corporate intro with things being revealed and all sorts of motion graphics. You wasting time.
Watch time goes like this.
Yep, you're going to lose them. They're not even going to watch at all.
100%.
So I did content for a brand a while back where they launched a car and we had to get leads very quickly. It was quite tricky in the sense that the vehicle wasn't in the country while we were getting pre-orders. So that was the objective. I'm on the content team, I'm not on the paid team, but they leveraged the content that I produced at that point in time. And the difference was we were given global footage of this vehicle with USPs and things on it, like actual, basically TV ads, but created into a little reel. Ran those, and we did carousels, and those were also very much designed, back shot type of designs. All good. There's a place for that, I guess. And then what I did is I literally, at that point in time, and this is a year or two ago, took my phone and I got into the car and I just told myself I need to make people just see and feel what it's like to get into this car. And we generated most of our leads from that video. That said nothing. It had no text on. It had a trending song at that point, and it was like point of view. Look how beautiful this car is.
Without saying anything.
Nothing. Generated the most leads.
Really?
Yeah.
I've heard Mr. Beast say that the moment he speaks in a video, he gets less reach.
And that's interesting.
And I think it's got to do with, I almost feel like the moment you open your mouth, there's a bunch of people who might not enjoy it.
Yeah, maybe they just don't like you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like your voice is funny, or how you pronounce this word is
Yeah.
not how I would pronounce it, or
Yeah.
your accent is weird, or like you creating variables for people to not like, or maybe just disassociate with, or just disconnect with. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay. So, because I think he said that's also why Mr. Bean was one of the world's most popular shows, because he never spoke in it. He never spoke in the actual
Less
series.
variables, like you said.
There's variables.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we had a conversation about variables before the show. So the moment you speak, you just increase the amount of variables that might not be a fit for whomever is watching. Interesting.
So that is interesting because at the moment, I'm all for speaking.
Yeah, me too. And I think
because like the content you're doing,
my content is
putting out
only
that
talking.
message is-
Yeah. And I see like what I'm realizing is that the content, if I post, like the educational content get a lot more follows, and then videos like a funny moment or gets a lot of views, but the follows are less because
exactly.
people don't know if I'm going to find value in the next video if I follow you.
Exactly.
So yes, you created a piece of entertaining content, but by no means I'm going to follow you because there's probably a good chance the next video might not be that entertaining or might not be that valuable because it maybe seems like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
And I feel when I speak and people enjoy the value, there's a higher probability that they're going to follow because they might want to see the next video.
Exactly.
And because there's a good probability in their minds that they might have value too. So from my perspective, I'm down to posting 2 videos a day, which I never thought that I would be able to do.
Well done.
But we've kept it up consistently. We haven't missed a day.
Sure.
We haven't missed a day of videos in the last 3 or 4 weeks. 4 weeks.
It's been such a lovely
His words
work.
were, it's fucking stressful. Not my problem. My problem is just creating the content.
Yes, if you had it like 12 at night, be like, lekker brew, this has to fucking
Yeah.
That has never happened.
I know.
But anyway, I hear what you're saying. So yeah, so for me, when we did that first video, I was like, what did I do right? And we looked at everything. And I think for me, it was like, how do I create content that's easy for me? Like, I just want to pull up my phone. Like, I don't want to dance in front of. I did try and do a comparison one where I had 2 versions of myself speaking to each other. And I had 3 or 4 people message me going like, that video is so cool, but it had like 7,000 views, where the average video gets like 20, 30,000 views. We've got a bunch, like out of 14 videos I post a week on Meta and TikTok, I'd say 3 or 4 of them get close to 100K. Then it's a situation where I go, how do I, and we spoke about this, ROE, return on effort.
I was just
How
about
do
to say
how do
that.
I put the least amount of effort and get the most amount of views? Because that video that we created had a ton of effort in it, and it had the least amount of views. So I was like, this is not feasible. It's not scalable. So for me, it's when I create content, it's all about how do I put the least amount of time and effort into it. And I mean, not in a lazy way, I'm in a strategic way. Like how can if I put time into it, it's actually impactful as opposed to spending all this time and then nobody wants to watch it. So what I've realized, the talking head videos gets more follows, where a video that is more entertaining gets more views but less follows, and videos where that's more relatable, like I made a video about tax, hundreds of comments because it's a pain point for most people. Because here's where I'm going with this, is like some videos get a lot of views but no follows, knowing a lot of comments or engagements or shares. Some videos gets a little bit less views but gets a ton of follows. So I think it's a business also, is like it depends on what the actual goal is. Your monthly, I'm assuming your monthly strategy includes all these things. It's like, okay, cool, we're going to do a video that's probably going to get a ton of reach, but it's mainly for awareness. Then we're going to do a video that shares more value, but maybe it's going to get less views, but people need to also, hear what the brand has to say. So as we round off this conversation, I'm just curious, like what goes into planning a month's worth of content as Elizabeth? If you had to plan a content for a client, let's hypothetically say you were working with me or someone like me, like you can't just go and create one video and try and do that same video the whole time.
Yeah, no.
So what does planning an actual strategy looks like for like a month?
Yeah, so no, I mean, all the examples you've just used, it's so accurate and it's exactly how our strategy is influenced. So we create a certain amount of content pillars for a client, and they all have, it might sound chaos, but it makes sense. They all have different objectives within the scenario that you just mentioned. So the client often wants to see product. So there is a certain amount of time and effort that goes behind showcasing the product, for example. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're selling the product. We don't do ads, we do content.
And content can sell product. But
So
I'm saying
there's a certain amount of effort being put behind selling the product, for example, in a unique way. But then there's another part of it that would focus on value. It's the first thing I ask myself whenever I approach a new brand or they approach me, whichever, is how can this brand add value to their viewers' lives? What is the value that they can share? Apart from whatever the product is that they sell or the service is, if I look at your brand, what value can you share that's relevant to me as your target audience that will make me engage in more? So that will make me potentially turn into a follower. That's the first questions. I want to share value. And then we delve into, okay, so how can we bring the product into a different conversation, different content pillar, but in an engaging way. Because we can't just focus on the value part and then no one knows you're selling something. That is also an important part. And then we always add a little bit more of a direct message as well. So we often use carousels for this, where the thing is with a carousel on Meta specifically or on Instagram that works really well is your reels gets put out to new viewers and existing, but mostly new. Your carousels get shown to followers first. And what happens with the carousel, that's a pretty cool thing now, is that it gets shown to your followers more than once.
I've seen it's not the same photo, but it is the second or third photo in the carousel that they see for the second or third time. And it's usually for people who didn't watch the whole carousel.
Yeah, so we do use that format specifically just to tap into the various objectives of the platform. And with carousels, we'll have a little bit more of a direct message because the person is looking at it and they don't have to spend time to figure out what they're looking at.
Yeah.
It's not like a video where the hook might be cool, but you still need my time to figure out what you want to say, where a static is giving you the message straightforward, which is good.
Picture tells 1,000 words.
Yeah, so we need that balance. And then the story behind the brand. That is usually, not all the time, but that's usually quite important. It's giving the brand personality, telling us a bit of what's happening behind the scenes or what's happening in the business. However, that would not be the priority because the priority would be, how does my service or product add value to your life? And before I sell it to you, I'm just going to talk value. So I'm just going to, for example, I'm thinking about a supplement brand for kids. So it's vitamins. And this is long ago actually, but we went into, okay, so the mom is going to buy the supplement and she's obviously health conscious, thinking about how much vitamins and whatever the kid needs to take in. So let's start with lunchbox ideas. So that's a way to get the mom's attention within the brand without actually selling the product to her.
I like that.
And I always compare it to pregnancy because I spoke to a guy way back when I started early in social media and I said what I did and he said, oh, so you're the reason why I'm seeing prams because my wife is pregnant and I haven't even said or told anyone.
Wow.
His wife is pregnant and he's seeing the prams.
That's crazy.
And I mean, we all know the whole retargeting recipe, yeah, but I'm the one that's coming up with is it a sleep pattern for newborns or what is that thing that you initially engage with that gets you into the pool and then you guys can sell.
Yeah, I like it. I think, look, I mean, you talk a lot about us selling and running ads and stuff, but I think viral organic content sells just as many product. So I don't think you should take away from it. But yeah, man, I think I had a great conversation with you and I would probably sit here all day if it wasn't for the fact that people are probably not going to want to listen to a 6-hour podcast. But I really enjoyed, ironically speaking. But anyway, I had a great time and I hope there was some value in those of you watching and listening. And Elizabeth, I want to say thanks for coming through. And I'm assuming if people wanted to check you out, they just go on to Fluke Media socials.
Yeah, at fluke.media. They'll find me on Instagram mostly.
Cool. Amazing. Go check it out. Anyway,
Awesome.
thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
through, man.
Cool.
Much love. Bye.